we are recording. We are live. I am so excited to have one of my, I don't know, bosom buddies, partners in crime, commiserator, Laura. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited. I've been watching these for a long time, so happy to be on.
Thank you. We need to tell people, for the crazy people in contracting who don't know you, give them a couple of seconds on who you are, what you do, and then we're gonna dig in.
Perfect. So my name's Laura Frederick. I'm the founder and CEO of How to Contract, and we're a training platform for contracts in the real world, learning how to draft and negotiate. We focus on the people who are doing the work, what I call the worker bees, or the people in the trenches on contracting. So I don't do what Lucy does, which is operations and implementations. And I'm not into the AI tech, legal tech world. But I do talk a lot, and have for the last year or so, about AI or contracts to buy AI products or to access AI platforms. So that's been a big part of my training over the last year because there's such a need for that. So we have certifications, we have courses, we have all that, but it's all wrapped up in a single membership. So you buy the membership and then you get everything for a year. So yeah, it's been fantastic.
Amazing. Well, and Laura, what you do is you're training people on all the things that none of us were ever trained on in law school, and that we all learned. And you and I have very similar backgrounds. You were at Tesla, right? I was at Microsoft. We were procurement lawyers, so we got to go deep into certain types of contracts, right? The purchasing agreements, which at companies like these are their own beasts. And yeah, just big shout out and kudos for filling such a huge gap. Nobody had this access to this kind of information before you. This depth and the quality and the breadth of the different topics you cover. So, and I love how you describe it. I mean, you really are this content platform for education for commercial, not just lawyers, for commercial contracting professionals, and I love that about it too. It isn't just for lawyers. So shout out, kudos, love all of that. And I love also that you already kind of helped define AI, contracting for AI versus AI for contracting. And you and I are always in the middle. We're one of the probably few people that hear the confusion when other people are doing it. It's like watching a train wreck. We're like, no, that person is talking about how you negotiate terms for purchasing an AI solution. That's different than how do you use AI to do your contracting work as a commercial professional, right? And those two are right now like they're just all over the place because it's like chicken and egg, and one kind of feeds the other. But to be clear, your education is about how do you negotiate terms when you are purchasing AI-enabled solutions, AI solutions with AI in them, services that may or may not use it, all the things that you might be buying that might have AI. Okay. Yes. That's like,
although I will say we've entertained some and had some webinars on kind of adjacent topics. So my core training is always just the drafting and negotiating, but with our expanded, we did a bunch more webinars this year and we added topics that were outside my core. So things like burnout, and then things like how do legal departments buy AI was one of them, where we had guest people on. So but my core concept is really the, commercial contracting in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, we've said it a lot already. I always wonder how long it takes to get to it, the two-letter word, the two-letter monster. So let's get from you this perspective of the boots on the ground lawyers. Let's just talk about lawyers for a minute, not just generally all contracting professionals, but those are your main people, right? That you've got all these boots on the ground lawyers that are, like you said, the worker bees that are typing away feverishly in their contracts and their negotiations. Tell me what your vibe is on how ready or interested they are in automating parts of their jobs.
I think they're very interested. I get a strong interest, a strong desire to do it. And they see what I see, what I think everybody sees is all the potential of these products to really make things better. But they also see all the problems, and that it's not a smooth sailing to this destination of automation and where everything's working smoothly. And I
Right.
think that lack of smooth sailing comes in two parts. One is it's going to be a messy process to get there, in terms of, because we're starting at a messy place, we're going to have a lot of mess trying to change this, slow moving, constantly shifting, imprecise beast that is commercial contracting at most companies. And to move that to a new place isn't, it would be hard if it was perfectly organized and neat and in their little boxes, but it's not. So it's even harder that way. But also for the people who are doing the contracting, I think it's a real unsettling time, because we're seeing the writing on the wall in terms of where the jobs will be in the future, and how do they take action now to ensure that they're going to be one of the ones who remains employable, who still gets hired for jobs. I think that's that job loss of the folks who are at the lower skilled tiers of contracting is a real issue. And I'm sensing that's a concern as well. Not necessarily this week, next month, maybe even not this year, but definitely it's coming.
It's coming. I kind of feel like in some ways we had very similar conversations around outsourcing. We'll set aside the pace of change because this is unprecedented. We'll talk about that in a second. But I feel like it's a very similar conversation when legal process outsourcing was a thing. That was a 3-letter word, LPO, and it was the same vibe that anything around outsourcing got back in the time, right? It's all going overseas. All the work is leaving, and somehow legal also started feeling a little angst and what can we do to not, oh no, is my job going to be outsourced? You even heard law firms talking about that, because I feel like I really lived through that personally when I was in House of Microsoft, and we did outsource a whole bunch of contract review. The stuff that we outsourced, frankly, is the same exact stuff that right now I would automate, and we advise our clients to automate. So it feels like the biggest competition for these jobs is actually AI should be, I think, eating up some of the outsourced service providers' jobs. And it's been an interesting kind of, watching the light bulbs go off for some, going, oh, I guess it's kind of similar. And I always say, I'm like, look, your job wasn't outsourced. Your job probably also won't be automated. But the difference, you actually have to use the automation yourself for your job. So I think that's the beauty of it, is it isn't replacing necessarily, certainly not yet, to your point. It's not happening this week or next week. But it feels like the AI capable lawyer, the AI interested, the AI curious, call it whatever you want, lawyer, that's the one who's going to really survive. And the lawyer who's just as good, but is hoping this whole AI thing will pass, those are the ones that probably need to fear a little bit more for their job. Wouldn't you think? It's not about direct replacement, certainly not. I don't
know. I might take a different tact on that, because I don't think the ALPs or whatever the other acronyms are, like, I don't see it as the equivalent of AI, just because of the accelerated thinking and the skill sets that we see with AI that didn't, at least my experiences with outsourcing legal support, I never saw it get past the playbook, smart people applying playbooks. But with ALPs, with the AI, we can do so much more. And I see it already, like it's just so much more capable than any ALP ever was. Or ever would be.
I think that's a key point, because it's also more capable than just humans are in some way. So I think you're spot on that it isn't a one-to-one comparison, for sure. But I want to know, what do you think about those lawyers that are interested and they are using it? How do they use it in a way that's like, I'm going to use it so much that I'm not scared of it. It's like at the same time, right? I'm going to automate myself out of a job, but at the same time, I'm not going to be fearful of that, because I will now have the superpower of using AI.
And I see it as two camps of people who are really going to do well and thrive. So the one camp are what you're talking about, the AI curious, but not just curious, not just playing with it, but the true AI experts.
Users.
So if you can walk into an organization and basically look at it all and then recreate it with AI support and remodel everything so that it is fundamentally shifting human workflows to AI workflows and building in those controls and the quality systems and all those kind of things. The people who have the ability to make that happen are, I think, very, safe employment wise, because that's what the rest of us need, who we think in the traditional way, and to shift our thinking to the AI way, and the way to, have 100 agents performing things, but in a way that's safe and not going to violate our legal privilege and oaths to our clients. Like, that's the part, I think that's the biggest challenge for the ones who have been around for a while, like you and me. So that's one camp. But the other camp that I think will do really well are the people who have amazing judgment, experience, breadth, who can, breadth meaning width of information and judgment and ability to, in a snapshot, analyze a very complex situation and make immediate decisions relating to it. I don't see, I've mentioned this before on LinkedIn, where I post a lot, as you know, and the responses have been, well, we can give AI all that background. I was like, no, you can't. Like, how there's something human about that business judgment that knows this VP, he might say he's okay, but he's really not. Unless we get this one thing in this deal, he's never going to approve it. And then this other person, they don't have enough budget for this quarter. So if we're going to move it out to the next quarter, which means we have time, which means we can delay this, those kinds of human nuanced bits of information that aren't things that are getting entered into the project files, that the people who are able to use that kind of information and make good legal business decisions with that information I think are going to continue to be very valuable. It's the people who don't understand or haven't been trained in kind of how to make those decisions and don't have the skill sets to do that. So even if they're very AI curious, they play a lot, they like to do fun stuff with it, and they learn a lot about workflows and agents and things like that, unless you're highly skilled at it or you have really good judgment that you can't be replicated, those are the groups that I do think will find themselves, having to shift away from where they are now to a different kind of role.
Right. I think that whole, in that example that you gave, that kind of human touchy information. I don't know how to even describe.
It's like the EQ kind of.
It is. It's an EQ.
That sort of stuff.
It's this is why I'm good at what I do. This is why I know everybody's been buried. That isn't templatized. It is not templatizable. It just doesn't lend itself. It doesn't lend itself to prompting either. There's no prompt in the world that can be pre-written in a way that captures all of what those examples you gave are perfect, because when you live it and breathe it in-house, you can't put your fingers on it, but you know how to get the deal done because of those nuances. Now, not every deal needs that. And that's the beauty of where AI really can shine. The other deals where it doesn't need that, and it is repeatable and recurring, templatized, that it's great. And that's if you're spending all of your days as an attorney still reviewing NDAs, with all due respect, that your days should kind of be numbered. Like, that shouldn't keep going for much longer if that's the bulk of your day job. And we still see some lawyers out there that they're still spending a little bit too much time on that. But I love the way you're explaining it. And I think people need to. I hope that the legal tech companies who are listening are listening. Too many of them also, I think, hire lawyers, but I've realized they'll hire somebody who had litigation for 3 years at some firm, and now that's their lawyer in-house. And you're kind of going, whoa, very, very, very different. You need this depth of commercial contracting in-house if that is what you're trying to automate. What do you think? I'm going to put out a very hopeful, positive vibe that some of the good forward-thinking legal tech companies are embracing a more, what I'm calling a consultative approach to their entire customer life cycle. From marketing through sales, implementation, and post-implementation, They are trying to play more of an advisory role. They're bringing in legal engineers, they're bringing in enablement, all these titles. There's dozens of these jobs right now. And if you read the description is understanding the clients or customers' processes, understanding how the tech can help with the I feel like they're describing consulting, the advisory service. Do you feel like there's a little bit of a trend? I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that I'm reading the tea leaves right, but that's the signal I'm kind of picking up. Would love to hear your thoughts because you work with so many sponsors and you know so many of these companies. Are they embracing substantive quality and content like what you offer them?
Yeah, I think what I see is they are embracing the conversation with the clients. They are embracing the role that in order for a lot of these companies to adopt their product, they're going to need help.
Yes.
That they need help training their teams. They need help bridging this gap between what the product does and what the customer needs it to do. And there's this big gap. So I see the companies filling that, like you said, with the legal engineers, with customer enablement teams, with much more robust customer support than I think we used to see. It
Yeah.
used to be such a big, and I don't know if people are still charging for it as add-ons. I just see a lot of companies who are kind of, some of them are doing that, but a lot of them are just helping. Even my own little business, I see when I go with a company, it used to be I always had to buy like onboarding help. And now more and more companies are including it for me and whenever I pick up a new product.
Yeah.
Or not any new product, but substantive, like expensive
Yeah.
products. So I see that's kind of no one's going to stay with a vendor if they don't know how to use it. And these tools require learning how to use it. So I do think they're seeing it. Now, some of this is, it also, at least the part of me, the lawyer in me, I worry about that unauthorized practice of law part of it because some of the contracting,
Okay.
there's the
Let's get into this one. Let's get into this. I just had a little LinkedIn exchange on this where I was like, I can't believe we're still talking about this. But I want to hear your point, please.
Yeah, well, I think it's at some point there's contracting that is the practice of law, and then there's contracting that's not. And a lot of the drafting and negotiating, I don't believe is practice of law necessarily. I think, I've worked with contract teams my whole career. They're excellent. I don't think they were practicing law. But when there are things where you are advising clients on the legal implications of choosing this word or choosing that word, that gets pretty close. So even playbooks to a certain degree, if you create a generic playbook, no problem. If you customize a playbook for a particular company with their existing forms and advising them which language they should pick going forward based on their circumstances and their facts and their everything like that, I don't know. That's always felt like it pushes the line.
Well, I think it might push the line the way that UPL is described, which if we go back in time, of course, it was created at a time when, ambulance chasing, it was protecting these poor consumers from people who really shouldn't be in the business of trying to get their money and to take them, to help them get to court and file claims and all these things. And I feel like it's always been a challenge with corporate legal teams and the way in-house even grew. Remember, all this was written when there was only law firms. There were no even in-house lawyers. The whole concept of an in-house corporate law department is only about 30, 40 years old in essence, the way we know it. And I think it's going to continue to evolve now. And AI is only going to poke all these bears. I think what you're highlighting, though, is it's the reality of the complexity. I mean, it's just, this isn't black and white. And AI of all tech, is now like, is it tech? Where do you even draw the line? It's so integrated in all of our lives, our personal lives too.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
I would say on that point, though, that if you look at people who work on contracts and you look at somebody who is a contract manager or led contracts in a business role, and then you look at a lawyer in the legal department who worked on contracts, my personal experience, and I see this consistently, they are two very different roles. They focus on two different things. They have two very different skill sets. And I think this idea that they're just one big lump of people who work, not that you've said that, but I hear that sometimes, that we're like, we all work on contracts, so it's all kind of the same,
No,
but
I
it's
agree with you.
definitely not. And that's where if you are, if the companies are taking over work that's traditionally done by the business folks, great. If
Yeah,
they are, or could have been done by the business folks, things like NDA automation, things like
yeah,
that, totally can be done by legal without a lawyer involved, always has been done without a lawyer involved by many smart companies for a long, long time. I don't think anybody's arguing that's the practice of law. But
right.
when you get into replacing the lawyers with the more sophisticated advisory work, I don't know. I don't see it as the consulting game. And I think, we'll see where that goes. It's
Yeah,
either we kind of like the copyright definition. I don't know, a couple of years ago, we all expected what was going on with AI to be copyright infringement across the board. They're clearly taking it, they're copying, this is terrible. And
right.
while there are some indications on the edges, we're
Yeah,
not seeing that play out as we expected. And
right.
I see the same for lawyers. Like, it could be that this vision of licensed lawyers and what we do with contracts, I mean, it could go away. People could decide, you know what, all the legal things that require us to be licensed, we don't need lawyers to be licensed in the day of AI because we've got AI. So we need skilled, experienced people, but whether they're licensed or not doesn't matter.
Right.
It's
But
more skill-based,
that might
knowledge-based.
happen, that it might happen, which is very different than the whole world of litigation, right? To be
Yes, of
licensed, to
course, you have to
make
be
it
licensed there.
court. Exactly. And so it feels like the whole again, in-house commercial lawyering has always had these interesting questions, right?
Yeah.
About privilege and all these things. So
Yeah.
we're living through some huge transformation. There's no doubt. And that part of it is just super cool. Like every once in a while,
Yeah.
step back and go, wow, we are living through like an industrial revolution size impact, but the pace of change,
Yeah.
unbelievable. It is unbelievable. I think we're at a place where, if my job in our little company is to stay on top of all the latest happenings, certainly in contracting tech, right? I will admit, and I will just challenge anybody who can claim that they are on top of every piece of tech.
Yeah.
You can't. We are the first to admit, say, you know what? We can't keep up with the latest and greatest new thing that any one of these companies can do without exploring it every time almost fresh.
Yeah.
Because even the companies who we are very familiar with, they're evolving so quickly. The number of new companies that come on the market, unheard of. I don't know
Yeah.
how many LinkedIn messages I get from a new company. Hi, I hear you know a thing or two, Lucy, about contracting automation and would love to get your thoughts. I'm like,
Yeah.
where did you come from? Who are you? What are you doing? And I mean, probably weekly on average.
Yeah. And I get them too. I get like, I'd love to demo for you. And I'm like, I'm not your customer. I'm not a target customer. I'm not a practicing lawyer working in-house. I'm just,
Yeah.
talk about contracts. I would never, unless.
Make a choice about your
Yeah.
yes. No, and it's such a chaotic space. It's just right
Yeah.
now chaotic, certainly on the tech side. But let's shift gears for a few minutes and maybe through the end of this call. And let's talk about more broadly entrepreneurship, women in law. Those are all their own topics too. But I will tell you, I just came
Yeah.
back from a legal week conference, which I
Mhm.
don't usually go to. Once in a while, I went to this one in New York, and I don't know if you've seen any of the chatter online. I noticed it myself too about the red dressed lady on this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was there, right? I saw it, and I was with my son, one of our new employee. Which, hey, this is the exciting part. Also coming full circle of running a business. I have a new freshly minted program manager, and looking at it through the eyes of a recent college grad, I asked, I'm like, am I missing something? Am I being hypersensitive? Am I overly women? And he's like, I have no idea what they're even trying to sell. I can't even if I stand here forever and read the words, just the whole concept of that marketing with all the words and all that.
Yeah.
But I did not like that. And I don't think, again, I don't consider myself hypersensitive on these topics. I just see like smart and not smart. There's nothing about that thing that spoke to me. I don't understand what it was trying to message. And I thought there's a million other ways that they could have used AI. Imagine like, hey, create a curmudgeon old middle-aged white lawyer guy with papers everywhere and his red pen, and he, put him and okay, that would be like a funny, I see, AI is really and that's
But
just
would it be? Would it
huh?
be? Because that's, discriminatory and age discrimination.
You're
If you
right.
put the
Maybe
old
not
guy.
old. Never
Yeah,
mind old. Never mind old.
that's
Forget the
okay.
word
That's
old.
okay.
Get old. Tired,
Tired
lawyer,
lawyer. Yep,
three-piece suit, like put all the things that are
exactly.
acceptable to kind of tease and make fun of, the lawyer
Yeah,
profession and community. There's enough of that without being offensive, but actually being funny. Make it a caricature, like
yeah,
funny. This looked very realistic.
yeah.
And maybe that was again the point, but I missed the point. So I don't know how much you looked into
Well,
it, but tell
I
me.
saw it and I thought they were either, I mean, I figured they knew what they were doing, is what I assume, because you
Me
can't live in
too.
this day and world and put a scantily clad woman on a big back of your,
Right. Booth.
of your booth at a huge trade show
Right.
and be the only one with a scantily clad woman on your booth in the trade show and not know that what you were doing, because these are
Right.
expensive things to buy,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
booths. So I think they're looking for news, and some people want any news is good, any publicity is good publicity,
Yeah.
even if
Just
it's
eyeballs.
negative.
Right.
So, and there's a tech bro element to things these days. So what may offend you and me may not offend a lot of them. So
Yeah.
who knows if they were trying to appeal to that element of the legal tech community, is just what I would guess.
Okay.
They wanted to stand out and appeal to that category that takes notice of that and isn't offended.
Yeah.
They didn't care about the rest of the categories of us, men and women, who are offended by that. And so
Yeah.
I see it as an educated choice, whether I agree with it or not. Obviously, I don't,
Oh,
but
I agree with an educated choice. That's what makes it a little bit more concerning to me. I don't think it was like how did you not think through this? Oh well, you learn something new every day as an entrepreneur. No. There's
no,
no way. There is no
no.
way. They debated this and somebody said, let's go for it. And we want
Yeah,
to be provocative,
yeah.
which I find even like, really, I would have almost rather it be some rookie mistake and where you can like just
Exactly.
say, it's okay, we all learn. Let's not do
Yeah.
that again. Yeah, but I knew you'd seen it. So let's close out in the next few minutes just about really entrepreneurship. So you left a very, a comfy, let's mostly would say secure job, most, despite what we read in the news. But in general, right? We're both in house and it was like secure, predictable, paycheck, blah, blah, blah. But you took the leap. So why, how, what made you do it? Looking back, would you do anything different?
Yeah, it's, I'm so glad I did. I can definitely say that. And I took the leap. I think it was an easier leap than pure entrepreneurship, which to me is owning a business that's not the practice of law. Because going from being a lawyer in house to a lawyer in your law firm is a version of entrepreneurship, I see, but it's a different, because you're still doing the same job. It's just in a different setting with different customers. So,
Okay. Yep. Fair.
but yeah, so opening the firm was the first step for me. And really for me, it was about freedom, and not just freedom and schedule, but also freedom of who I worked with, because I found it was, there were people I loved working with and people I really did not like working with. And I didn't have any choice in the matter. And I had to work with
Right.
whoever it was. And so when things would happen, which they inevitably would, I couldn't just say no to particular people. I'm not going to work with you anymore, unless it was kind of a legal level of stuff.
Yep.
So that was one of them. And then there were things I loved about what I did, and there were things I didn't love. And I didn't want to do the stuff I didn't love. I was kind of like, I'm too old for this. I want to do what I really love. And I realized the only way I could do that was to be my own boss. Because if I didn't really want to join a law firm. I did 9 years in law firms, including 5 in big law. Like, I know what that world is. So I didn't want to join another law firm. I
Right.
wanted to be, because that's just a different boss than
Oh yeah.
what I had now.
A lot of bosses at
A
a
lot of
firm.
bosses, exactly. And the same with, and I realized I interviewed for a couple in-house jobs, and I'm like, how is this better than what I've got? Like, it's not, it's just different environments. So I realized I had to go out on my own. I had 8 months of saving because I was single mom, no financial support from family or any ex-husband or any of that kind of stuff. And I had 8 months other than my retirement fund. And so I was like, okay, if this run, I'll give myself 4 months. If I can't make my living expenses by 4 months, then I'll go find a job. And at least then it was an economy where I could go find something with one of the temp agencies or something within a couple months. So that was the kind of the reason behind it and why I wanted to do it. And then within a few months, I was cranking along, but then it dipped in the summer because I started my firm in January. It was really, really busy, like most people who start a firm. And then it dips for a while. And then I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? But then
Yeah.
I found I took a lot of work at a lower rate and it kind of came back and it worked well. And so did that. And then COVID hit and I started doing a little bit of like marketing on the side with thought leadership on LinkedIn. And then that turned into a big thing where I was doing both of them, the How to Contract and my law firm I ended up doing the law firm for 5 years, but I closed that down in January 2024 to just do How to Contract full time. So
Yeah.
knock on wood, I don't think I could ever go back to practicing law at this point because
Right.
it's too much fun what I get to do now. Like, this is the ultimate freedom. I don't even have clients I have to worry about anymore. It's just me and the community and people who want to buy from me. And those are the only people I have to worry about. And it's a beautiful thing.
Amazing. I love that story. I love how pragmatic and practical it is, and how even in a scary situation, you gave yourself a plan. And I think that's the message for anybody, who's listening, is it can be you. I get the same, probably you get the same comments. How did you do it? You were a single mom. I'm a sole breadwinner with 3 kids and a family. My husband's a stay-home dad. And, similar, like, how did you? And like, well, it's pragmatic. You have a plan. But it is a risk, and you have to kind of have your plan B and C, which you did. And I was the same. I would go to sleep every night going, I can always get a job. I can always get a job. And that's it. I would go to sleep every night telling myself that until finally that voice quieted. So I'm glad your voice quieted for you as well.
I ended up recently I moved to, and hopefully I think I'll end up staying in Pennsylvania as kind of for the indefinite future. But part of the reason I picked the state was because I once had the law license here and I could refresh or restart it again with just watching CLE. So I was like, you know what, this is as opposed to moving to New York State. And I'm like, I'm never getting barred there.
Right. Like, just in case, right?
Yeah.
So your plan X, Y, and Z, just in case we still have it.
I still have it. Even though
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I still see the easy apply on LinkedIn. Sometimes for an interesting in-house job. And I'm like, okay, good. These are still around just in case. So that's the moral of our story. Experiment, try things, but have your plan B and C ready. Thank you so much, Laura. I really, really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
I might have to have you back again because I knew we'd run out of time because we always do. But more to come. Thank you so much.
Thank
Until
you.
next time.
Bye.